beginning. Hold on a second. Okay. Can everybody see that? I'm going to move my mic over a little bit. Whoops, page up. Okay. Is that a yes? Everybody can pretty much see the screen? Okay, good. All right. So this normal presentation is, a good half an hour, 45 minutes or even more, but we don't have the time today. So we're going to talk about podcast guesting. I'm not going to encourage everybody to start their own podcast. Usually when I finish these presentations, nobody wants to start their own podcast, but there are ways to do it. And I'll mention to you how to do it the easier way. It'll involve some money as opposed to investing your time, but we can talk about that. Can everybody hear me clearly? Is that good? I don't know. Laura, can you see the chat?
You sound
everybody?
good. Sound good, Mitch. Yep.
All right,
sound good. Look good.
Okay. I don't know if Laura planned it this way, but it actually works out well. Jane spoke last week about, how to look on camera and speak well and all this kind of stuff. And it'll kind of carry into you being a guest on a podcast. So why is podcasting important? Why should you care about it? Podcasting is probably the fastest growing platform right now for content, marketing, creating content. It's an easy platform, right? Because you don't have to really create anything. You don't have to type. You don't have to upload it. You let the podcast people kind of take care of it. And there are hundreds of thousands. Last time I checked, I think we cleared 900,000 podcasts out there for you who are all looking for guests. I mean, everyone's looking for guests. Most podcasts have interview formats of some sort, and they're all looking for guests. So it's definitely something you want to pay attention to. It's a good way to create content. And when somebody listens to a podcast, it's like a different experience. If I'm in your head, I mean, some of the podcasts are shorter, but if I'm in your head for 45 minutes to an hour with someone else talking about some topic, somebody telling their story, we build a different rapport with the people that are listening. So it's definitely something you want to pay attention to. And it's definitely something that can really enhance your marketing, your content development, and your promotion as a thought leader in the industry that you're looking to be an expert in or a knowledgeable person that people turn to. So I put a link there. I think, how does this work? Can I pull up a little thing? Can you see that? Me writing? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this link is to a friend of mine, Tina Dietz, who's actually on my podcast I looked on this coming Tuesday. She has a company called Twin Flame Studios. And if you wanted to start a podcast and you didn't want to do it on your own, you wanted somebody to help you with the development, the editing, the marketing, the promotion, Tina's studio does that stuff. She also works with people helping them become guests on podcasts. So if you go to this website, twinflamestudios.com/Mitchell, she has thrown up a landing page for us, and you can download her podcast guesting piece. It's, 4, 5, 6 pages, and it'll teach you how to podcast guest and fill in all the stuff that I probably won't have time to cover today. Okay. So I got to turn off the annotate, I think. Let's go down to page down. How do you do that? Nope. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Okay, how do we get rid of, let's see. Can we get rid of this? Can anybody know how to get rid of the, okay, here we go. Eraser. Okay, boom. Okay, good. I'm getting better at this. All right, so let's talk about guesting and how to find podcasts and how to get on to different things. So there is a website called podcastguests.com over on the left there. And it's a website where you can put up a free profile. You can also do a paid for profile where you get seen more and promoted more. But you can just do the free one. I've done the free one. And there are thousands of people and hundreds of podcasts looking for guests. So I would encourage you all to do that. You put up your profile as to what your expertise is, what your story is, what your compelling idea is. And you want to build it with the thought in mind that, if somebody's going to read this and they have a business podcast, what would make them want to talk to you over other people? What kind of, compelling story do you have to tell? So that's a good place to start. Steve Olsher, who's America's reinvention expert, his website has a lot of videos about podcast guesting. That's his big thing. He's got a podcast guest challenge. I think it started this week and you're supposed to get 5 podcast guest spots in 5 days. That's the challenge. He did one before. He'll do one again. So if you go to his website, he was on my podcast as well. He was a guest of mine. And you can register with him and get on his mailing list to know about all the stuff that he's doing. Then you can go to any of the podcast directories, Apple, Google, and Spotify being the big 3. There's also Stitcher, and Amazon has just announced that, you know what, Laura, why don't you watch the chat? And if somebody has a question that's relevant to me, you can chime in, okay? So I was saying Amazon, I just submitted to Amazon. They have a podcast directory that's coming out. I'm sure it's going to be very large, as Amazon does things that way. There's also other directories. There's hosts, which I'm not really getting into today. But if you have a podcast, you upload your podcast to a host. There's Podbean, which is a big one, which is one I use. There's Blueberry and Libsyn and a bunch of different ones. You can also go to those sites and search. So you can go to Apple, Google, Spotify, and do a search for entrepreneurship, for investment podcasts, for coaching podcasts, for legal podcasts, whatever you want to do to be a guest on their podcast. And then you can go from there. They may have link information. They may not. And they may end up they may have their own website. And you got to do a site search for that once you find out who the host is and what the name of the podcast is. Or maybe in my case, I have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page. I don't have a separate website for the podcast. So you can do that. I'm on Pinterest and different kinds of things, but you got to do a little bit of research on your own. Podcast Guests also has a directory that you can search from. So that's a good way to spend the time looking for podcasts. And I guarantee you submit to 10, 20, 30 podcasts, you're going to get invited to be a guest on a podcast. Okay. If you're not, contact me. Probably your resume is not good. You're not giving a compelling enough message for people to want to bring you on the podcast. Because there's not enough guests out there. There's also a summit called PodMax Global. And if you want to do a little research on it, I'm sure they're going to have another one. But tomorrow, you can't get in now, it's filled. But tomorrow they're having a summit, an all-day summit. And what people have done is they've signed up and paid to be part of this summit. And they're bringing on podcasters like myself to interview people. So you basically get connected with up to 3 podcasts to do, I wouldn't call it speed interviewing because they're 50 minutes each, but I'm interviewing 3 guests tomorrow. I agreed to go on the podcast PodMax Global, and they're connecting me with the people, and then they're going to upload stuff, and I guess I put it on my podcast. I haven't figured that all out yet, but it is a forum to be connected with podcasts. So PodMax Global, do a search. You can get on their list for the next time that they do this. Laura, how am I doing on time? I'm good? Yes, I got what? How much? I'm good? Okay, good. So Laura wanted me to talk about microphones. So when it comes to all the public speaking that Jane talked about and looking good on camera, right? You want to sound good on camera too. And everyone knows that they've been on Zoom chats, right? And somebody's in a room and there's echoing going on and everything like that. So there's a couple of things you want to do. First, you want to have a good microphone. Okay. And there's 2 kinds of microphones. There's a USB microphone, which down in the corner here, that's a USB connection from the bottom of the microphone to the side of your computer, which in most cases should be fine. Maybe Kenny has a USB mic. Maybe Kurt has a USB mic. Yeah. There are also things called XLR mics. If you can see this, can everybody see that little connection on my little video screen? That's a round connection. So those go into mixing boards. I have a mixing board because before COVID, I would have people in my office with a boom mic, and he would be talking on, or she would be talking to the one mic, I'd be talking to the other. They tie into my board. I also have a splitter that ties my cell phone into the board, so I can talk to people on the cell phone and they can hear what's going on. Yeah, you don't necessarily hear them, but I hear them. And it allows me to control a lot more of the sounds. Those boards run anywhere from, I have a $200 board. It's a Yamaha board. I'm not getting into that here today, but I don't think I did. Yes, I did. Okay, let me jump ahead. This Yamaha board is my board. It holds up to 4 microphones on the left, and I can tie in I have the cell phone ties into here, and I can mix them in and out and do that. The Rodecaster is a little bit more sophisticated. I'm going to get back to this in a second. The Blue Yeti microphone is probably the most popular microphone around. It comes in, 30 different colors. It was unavailable for a while because of coronavirus, but I think you can still get it on Amazon now. It's got its own power, so it's a good microphone because you don't have to worry about having to boost the signal if you have a little laptop. The Blue Snowball is also a good microphone. Same type of thing as the Blue Yeti. I think it might come in different colors. And it's a good little microphone. The Samsung on the left here is one I have at home. It's a condenser mic as well, and then plugs in, and it's got its own power, and it's fine. I use it when I'm home and I have a meeting because I don't have all my equipment at home, and it's a good way. I don't need a mixing board to do that. So those are my three go-tos. You can go on Amazon, certainly do a search. You'll find a ton of USB mics. I wouldn't do anything under $50. You're getting into something out of a foreign country that's private labeled and probably junk. And I've owned those junks, so I can tell you that they don't produce very good sound. So listening devices. So you can certainly use earbuds. And if you use earbuds with a little mic on it, you may be able to get away with, decent sound. Most of the podcasts want you to have at least a headset with a microphone or a separate microphone. I have separate, headset with a separate mic because I like the clean sound, but you can do a headset with a mic if you want. A little less expensive way to go, depending on how expensive you get. My headset, I think, is under $50. I mean, you can spend several $100s on headsets, as you guys know. And they usually have different connections, and they should connect to your laptop, should connect to your computer. Maybe you need some adapters in some cases, but probably not. So that's the thing about listening devices. You don't really want to be in a room, right, where you're listening to the podcast on the speaker, because sometimes you get feedback going into the microphone. Have you ever been on a call and you're hearing echoing going on? Somebody doesn't have a headset, so the sound is echoing back through their microphone. Okay, so let's get into some cameras. So, and I don't remember if Jane covered any of this last week, but she might have, so I may be repeating myself. But you definitely want some decent lighting. You can get a ring light. I have an umbrella light here that lights up my face a little bit, but I also have overhead fluorescence, so it doesn't really do a lot for me at home. I have a ring light that I have stuck to the wall up above my laptop. You want to be careful, like if you wear glasses and you take a ring light, you put it on your monitor, probably going to see the ring light in your glasses. So you want to have it high enough so you don't see a reflection. Cameras as well. If you don't have a laptop with a built-in camera, these cameras, the Jellycomb I got, I think it's $20. The Logitech might be 40 or 50. They're HD cameras. They're fine. I have friends who have cameras that are $3,000 on tripods over their monitor, and they look beautiful. But, I'm not asking them to marry me, so I don't know why they just like having an expensive camera. A little trick about the cameras. So I just interviewed somebody who does similar things that Jane does. She's more of a on-camera specialist, not really a public speaking expert, but she's used to be on the news. Her name is Carrie Barrett. She's going to be on my podcast in a while, and she speaks about being on camera. So there's a trick, like when you have your camera, if your camera's up here, you might, as you see my face, I'm not really looking into the camera, I'm not looking at you. But if you have a separate camera, like the Jellycomb that I have over here, below it, it's got a little screw-in base, and I put it on a mic stand. So I'm able to kind of move my mic around, as you see. So I can put it literally in front of the screen and look at people and look at the camera, and it looks like I'm looking at you, and we're all talking to each other, because we tend to look at the people we're talking to and not look at the camera unless you're unless you're used to being on camera. So that's a little bit of a trick. You get either a tripod or a little mic stand, and you can, set your camera. So now I'm looking at you, right? It looks like I'm looking at you. I'm really looking at the camera. And you got to remember to the people that aren't used to doing that. So that's a little bit of a trick when it comes to the cameras.
Mitch, you got about 2 minutes.
Okay, fine. I'm pretty much done. A lot of this equipment is if you want to start your own podcast. You can get a boom mic if you want here, get all fancy. The iRig is what I use to tie my phone into the mixing board so I can listen. But a lot of this stuff, if you're just guesting, you don't really need to do. If you guys want to connect with me, Beinhaker Law is my website. This is my link tree. It has all of my social media posts. You can always search for the podcast on social media. And you can text law to 21,000. That's my digital business card. So if anybody's looking to learn more about podcasting, they want to start a podcast, I can connect them with some different people to do that. If there's any questions, if we got a few minutes, I'll answer any questions.
Mitch, I've got a question. So what would make a great interviewee? So when someone wants to be on the accidental entrepreneur,
Right.
what do you look for in regards to their business, their qualifications, their story?
Well, for my podcast, since it's an interview format, right? I'm interviewing people 45 minutes to an hour. I want them to either have something to offer to the entrepreneurial community. Maybe they wrote a book. Often they're authors. Or they have a good backstory. So they may have a business, but they've failed in certain businesses or had health challenges or whatever it is and overcome that. And now they've raised money and they started this new business and they have a journey to take us on to teach the people that are listening to the podcast. I don't usually take on people that have just started up in business and 3 weeks ago and they have a 3-week story. It's not going to last for 45 minutes to an hour. I don't really bring on people just for motivational purposes, but I'm happy to interview them. I interviewed somebody who had she has her own business. She coaches people who have special needs kids, especially autistic kids, because she has an autistic child. She wrote a book on the story and everything. I don't have any personal experience with stuff like that. I don't know if I could talk to her about that from a business standpoint for an hour, but I connected her with a lot of podcasts that are looking for those kind of things so she can promote her services and help other people. So I'm always happy to talk to people, but that's usually what I'm looking for. If you listen to any of the business owners that have been on, have stories, things they've overcome, experiences they've had to share with people. Maybe they're much older and they've had a whole life experience. My first podcast episode was about that. So that's, yeah. So, and that's what you want to put together, some sort of a compelling story as to, why are you different? Why are you interesting enough for this person to want to interview you, to be on a podcast. So you want to kind of work on that.
That's great information. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah. I see the chat's going crazy, but people are usually chatting with each other.
I think they're all complimenting you currently.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's very nice. What company do you use for the digital business card? Keith said. Digital business card is through an affiliate link. Actually, they're a support of my podcast. It's called Digital Accelerant. Gabe O'Neill out of Atlanta. He actually runs networking groups that you can go to and attend, and you'll learn about the business card there, and you can get your keyword. I think it's like $400 or $500 to set up, and then it's only like $13 a month then. So then I get a text, and I respond to the text, say, hey, if you want some information, here's where you go. So if you want the digital business card, let me know and I'll give you my affiliate link so we make a few bucks to support the podcast. So
it's a great that digital business card he's talking about is great. In fact, you can see next to my name it says
Kenny
text invest to 21,000, which is my digital business card that I got from the same place, Digital Accelerant, that Mitch is talking about. It's actually great. So you guys should take a look at that.
And you can design the card anyway. If you text Laura, text Kenny, invest to 21,000, you'll see both of our cards. You'll see how it's designed. You get to basically design it your own way, put video and all kinds of stuff on there.